Hi there, you're listening to Unnatural Selection, the show about newsy type stuff and things. My name is George.
My name is Tom.
And with our powers combined, we are 66.666 recurring % of Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com.
That's one of those weird numbers that's kind of like there's an infinite amount of numbers before we ever reach the 100%. Even if we add Adam back in, we could never truly be all of Unnatural Selection.
Yeah, it's just like a Horcrux, like, you know, a fragment of your soul is just lost every time you divide it up. So,
yeah, it just gets smaller and smaller. Like there's an infinite amount of numbers between like 0 and 1, but none of them are 2. So it contains everything and nothing.
Am I high? What happened?
yeah, like, whoop, yep, this took a turn.
Did you listen to a Radio Lab recently? What just happened?
I don't know. Someone mentioned that in the context of something else recently, and I was like, I've never thought about numbers that way, and oh wow, I've got a lot to think about, and then I promptly never thought about it again until this moment.
It's one of those stoner thoughts of like, wait, you're telling me that there's like bigger infinities and smaller infinities? Like, wow, that's crazy, bro.
There are things infinity don't have, but that doesn't
mean they're not infinity.
It actually was quite a big kablamo shower thought.
Speaking of living to infinity, Henry Kissinger sadly has not lived to infinity and
he's dead, baby.
He has passed off this mortal coil and has sadly left us.
How much? I was going to say, how much of the intro to celebrate good times could I just start singing before we get pulled for IP infringement? Like, is just, woo, enough? Is that a substantial enough part of the song?
Celebrate. So I've written a fuck eulogy. So fans of the show would know that the fuck eulogy is actually a bit from the Bugle podcast. Back in the day, would write, salty eulogies about terrible people when they passed away. And Kissinger might be the most like maximum infinity fuck eulogy person that one could write a fuck eulogy about. So
10,000%. The amount of people I've spoken to in the past few days, because he died on Thursday, our time, and I what a great evening to be on the internet. Oh man, I just
the memes were coming through thick and fast.
Eat shit, burn in hell, you monster. And I did have some people reaching out to me saying like, okay, like I know like surface level, like Kissinger, bad guy, but why is he bad? And then I'd tell them and they'd be like, oh boy. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I think he's one of the few like non-hyperbolic history's greatest monsters.
Yeah.
Like, there's heaps of people you describe as history's greatest monster. Him, I think you mean it.
Was Adam one of those people? Because Adam's one of those people like, I don't know, I heard he won like you guys talk about Kissinger like he's a monster. Like I heard he won a Nobel Peace Prize. It's like, fucking Google it, Adam.
Well, I think we had that conversation with Adam, but like a year ago, and he went, oh yeah, that's bad. I'm like, yeah, there we go. See, you educated yourself. Great.
Okay, here we go. So fuck eulogy commencing now. Further proving that the good die young, Henry Kissinger has passed from this mortal coil at the sprightly age of 100 years old. The beloved investor of Theranos and Nobel Peace Prize winning war criminal passed away in his home this week, surrounded by his loving family, just like all those Cambodians he killed. When reached for comment, anyone with a functioning heart said, good. Kissinger's accomplishments included opening America's relations with China, personally directing a secret bombing campaign in Cambodia, thus paving the way for the Khmer Rouge, one of the deadliest fascist regimes in history, resulting in the death of 1.7 million people, a quarter of the population of Cambodia at that time, and personally prolonging the war in Vietnam to save his job by 5 to 7 years, again costing hundreds of thousands of lives. Anthony Bourdain once said, once you've been to Cambodia, you'll never stop wanting to beat Henry Kissinger to death with your bare hands. Well, pour some out for a real one. With any luck, he's going to be going to the big metal octagon in the sky. R.I.P. Hank, you fucking monster. Turns out heaven's hotter than you thought, huh?
Oh.
Cheers.
Anthony Bourdain. Oh, what a legend. What a quote. I can't believe I've hated Kissinger for this long and I've never come across that quote from Anthony Bourdain before.
Delightful.
Everyone's been sharing just that rundown of him being like, someone said to him, I think in the same interview, you really don't like Henry Kissinger, do you? He was like, no, his works have followed me around on my travels. I have traveled through the places that he decimated.
Well, it's one of the. It's one thing
Cambodia,
to like.
Laos.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's one thing to. Yeah, I didn't even mention the secret war in Laos or some of the cooked shit he did in East Timor, and there was another one in Africa.
There's just too much.
There's just too much to like.
Even the 6 hour Behind the Bastards on Kissinger had to skip over shit just for the sake of time.
He overthrew helped overthrow Salvador Allende, who was a leftist in Chile, leading directly to the dictator Pinochet. Did a bunch of dodgy shit in Bangladesh, East Timor.
Yeah.
No, hang on. He did do one good thing. He brought peace to the Middle East. So we could see how how well that's worked out.
And that's been going great.
That's been going great
since then.
Famously, one of the more peaceful regions in the world.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 10 million%.
It's back to the Bourdain thing. It's one thing to understand all that academically. And I'd really recommend anyone who's wanting to know more, Google Behind the Bastards Kissinger. They did a little co-production with the Dollop sort of talking about it. And six podcast episodes, all more than an hour apiece. And it still doesn't quite scrape the depths of the depravity that this man initiated. But Bourdain, it's one thing understanding all of those things and reading about it and hearing about it. But Bourdain spent his life traveling and spending so much time in Southeast Asia and seeing the repercussions in these communities as to what happened after America decided they didn't want to overthrow some communist leader or some left-leaning leader. And they were just like done with the zone because the Soviets aren't going to take it over. It's not important to us anymore. Like Cambodia, they dropped more bombs in Cambodia than the Americans did during the entirety of the Second World War. 40% of the people killed by ordnance in Cambodia were children, just stumbling over it after the fact. Hundreds of thousands of people, killed, maimed just from unexploded ordnance lying around.
Yeah, and it's not just because I know people when people talk about horrible people in administrations and things like that. It's but and the deaths involved that people, I feel where people's brains sort of normally go to is that they think, but it's not a direct link of person, like when someone shoots someone else, of a person killed resulted in deaths of X. There was lots of steps in between.
Causal link.
This person did a thing that caused a link across. It's no, I think you can directly attribute what was the number you had before there? At least nearly 2 million people.
Yeah, direct deaths attributable to Henry Kissinger.
Decision.
Yeah. Oh, forget extending the Vietnam War for 5 to 7 years, depending on who you ask. Yeah. That alone resulted in the death of an additional 20,000 American U.S. service members, all because
of their own guys,
of their own
let
people.
Alone the people in Vietnam.
Yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer gets a Netflix series for killing a dozen people in Milwaukee. Where's the Kissinger series?
Kissinger gets a Peace Prize and is respected as an advisor on foreign policy for the rest of his life.
And that's the infuriating thing. It literally, when Hillary was campaigning in 2016, she wheeled Kissinger out Hannibal Lecter-like in his fucking mask. Well, you don't want him mauling any, sort of stray Cambodians for walking around the place.
You don't want someone to call him the bomb, and he goes,
"You fucking what?"
Knows.
He got away with it. He lived to 100, and was standing next to a major presidential campaign candidate for the presidency, and was there as to big her up. You know what I mean?
It's a look one of the the quote unquote great mind of foreign policy of the 20th century is here with me, and it's you mean the guy who fucking killed nearly 2 million Cambodians because he wanted to.
Yeah.
Like that's what the behind the bastard stuff goes into so well, is that like it wasn't just like he wasn't even like the Secretary of Defense or like the military guys or whatever, right?
No, but he was
like, bomb here.
But he was personally directing bombing raids in Cambodia and Laos. The guy who plans the bombing raids would bring the plan to him and he goes, no, don't bomb this instead. Bomb over here.
Don't do this. Bomb there. There's more children. Like just fucking absolute monster.
An absolute monster, and he just like very much completely got away with it. This is no consequences whatsoever.
And was it just a terrifying example of like also one of the most powerful men who's maybe ever lived. Yeah. Because prior to, I guess we're getting now into just doing Kissinger history.
Fuck Kissinger.
But yeah, fuck Kissinger. What a cunt. But that before he was in like the Nixon administration and then the Ford administration after that, he also like worked for LBJ. And
completely amoral, no loyalties, would say and do whatever. So
Democrat and Republican. Yeah. It's not like he's just a Republican shill. Like he was part of administrations on both sides of the aisle, and then after the fact, Hillary campaigning to be the Democratic candidate, and advised like probably both Bushes, I believe, and like he just was in the room, to borrow a Hamilton, in the room where it happens for fucking every president for like 80 years.
Gareth Reynolds called him the Forrest Gump of American war crimes. he was just there. He was just everywhere all at once through all of these major moments over the last 50, 70 years of foreign policy. Like he's just the worst.
Being asked his opinion.
And there was one point where he was backgrounding, because he kind of thought Nixon was going to get in. He was like backgrounding on LBJ to the Nixon campaign. And this is, backgrounding to his counterparts in Vietnam being like, don't come to the table. Wait till Nixon comes in. We'll do a super good deal. Yeah, so that's what we talk about. So we can end the war and get credit for it. Yeah. And it's just like any other time where you make a representation against the interest of the government that you're serving under for someone else, even if it's another candidate for president, like there's a word for that. It's called treason. Like these are actual crimes that are being committed. It's not just like a lofty, he had his ideas about what was going to happen. And, I reckon taxes should be lower. I reckon taxes should be higher. Oh no, we accidentally committed a genocide. Like we had our principled stand. Whoopsie poopsie. We committed a genocide. Like that's not what happened. He was just such a craven, amoral piece of shit that he just didn't care. He did whatever, whatever he needed to do, did whatever he needed to do in order to maintain his power and be, the advisor to whoever was in charge. And whether that was Nixon, whether that was LBJ, whether that was JFK, he didn't give a fuck.
Yeah, he didn't give a fuck. And it just a frightening amount of power for someone who is that just
sociopathic.
Calloused.
Yeah.
Sorry, someone in the Twitch chat named Vodka John just said, "Oh shit, what did I step into?"
Cambodia, buddy.
Dumping on Kissinger is what you stepped into. So Kissinger, history's greatest monster, gone far too late. Should have been gone quite a bit earlier.
That's how you know the good ones die young, because Kissinger lived to over 100.
lived to 106 months or something. I remember I was counting down those days a bit after listening to the Behind the Bastards thing of like, he was born in 1923. Oh fuck, he's gonna turn the hunch. Of all people who deserve to live longer, he is not one of them. No. That will be a crime against humanity that he's lived for this long. But another just little tidbit about Kissinger that someone brought up this week, which I think is just brilliant given how bloody old he was that he outlived one of his obituary writers. And how that can happen, you might be wondering, is that they clearly, media organizations bank obituaries a little bit, right? They usually have something for prominent figures. You've got something prepared and especially when, someone like Kissinger has done so much that there's a lot to write about. the basic facts of former Secretary of State for Nixon and blah, 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 all doesn't change. So you've got that in the can, and then they maybe update it a little bit when it actually happens. But so one of Kissinger's obituaries this past few days was written by two people. Actually, this little screenshot does not, unfortunately, have the publication, I'm sorry. But it was written by two people, Jurek Martin and Malcolm Rutherford. Now, Malcolm Rutherford died in 1999.
Wow.
So that tells you his contribution to Kissinger's obituary was potentially 30 years ago.
And ended before The Matrix even came out.
Before 9/11.
Before, yeah, pre 9/11 and The Matrix.
Yeah, pre those two things. But even better. So Malcolm Rutherford, it seemed to be a big like foreign correspondence journalist, stuff like that. So probably that's why he would have written a lot about Kissinger and probably would have been the person they would have gotten in to maybe do some prep with the obituary. But Rutherford's obituary was published in The Guardian in December of 1999, written by a man named, I'm going to butcher this, I'm sorry, but Hugh O'Shaughnessy? Shaughnessy?
Yeah.
Hugh O'Shaughnessy. Hugh O'Shaughnessy is also dead. He died in 2022. So Kissinger not only outlived the guy who wrote his own obituary, but he outlived the guy who wrote the obituary of the guy who wrote Kissinger's obituary.
Man was old.
It was so old. And it's crazy how that can line up. Unfortunately, I did some digging into anyone who wrote obituaries for Hugh O'Shaughnessy, and all of them are very much still alive and well. I think they decided to get some younger people to write those just to avoid this cacophony of mania.
3 in a row is embarrassing, I think.
Yeah, 3 in a row would be very embarrassing. But yeah. So long, Hank. See you fucking never.
See you in hell, buddy.
I hope you suffered at the end.
Yeah.
Actually, and if anyone, this is going to sound, the first half of this sentence sounds really weird, but it ends in a Simpsons reference, so I hope you're happy. Anyone who has access to Kissinger's corpse, namely his glasses, has the chance to do the funniest thing ever, which is drop them in the toilet.
What?
Think about The Simpsons for a bit. There was a Simpsons episode where Homer finds a pair of glasses in a toilet in the power plant, and he puts them on, and he thinks he's smart.
Right.
But then they smash cut to Smithers walking Henry Kissinger out of the building and being like, "Thank you for coming, Mr. Kissinger, but I'm sorry that we couldn't find your glasses." And he said, "I'm sure I left them in the car." And in his brain, he's like, "No one must know I dropped them in the toilet. Not me, the man who drafted the Paris Peace Accords or something." So yeah, if anyone has access to Kissinger's corpse, namely his glasses, drop them in the toilet. Come on, you'll never get this opportunity again.
Very good. That was a long bow to draw, but I'm glad we got there. Did we talk about the fact that his counterpart, so he won the Nobel Peace Prize and his counterpart in Vietnam refused to accept the Peace Prize. Yeah. This is for the peace accords for the end of the Vietnam War. Because he's like, I don't want to share a peace prize with that guy because he bombed us at Christmas. Recently.
It was like we had a truce and he broke it.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not going up there.
Bombed the Christmas bombing. Vodka John says, whilst I agree that Kissinger was a huge POS, it is crazy to reckon with how powerful he truly was. That man was a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah. That's what I mean. One of the most powerful men who's ever lived.
He went
a terrifying thought.
He went full Super Saiyan. His power level was over 9,000. Very concerning.
So yeah. Fuckity bye, Kissinger.
And to those of you who might say we are relishing in this man's death, yes, fuck him.
Yes. Yep.
Sometimes it's okay. There sometimes are truly terrible people in this world, and it's okay to be happy when they're dead. Like, I don't think this whole like respectability politics thing of like, oh no, you should never celebrate the death of your political opponents. It's like, well, bro, when Hitler died, I'm sure there was dancing in the streets. Like, not that they're equivalent, but like there are bad people. And sometimes I'm going to celebrate when really, truly horrible people die. When Donald Trump dies, I'm going to have another highball. Okay, like
crack open a bottle of bubbly.
A moment of celebration. That's all. I'm not saying go to a parade. Okay, go to a march. It doesn't need to be formal. Just crack open a cold one at home and just pour one out for a real one.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been like people have been like surprisingly on the same page with Kissinger. I've found most of this week. I've been waiting for people to be like, "Oh, you shouldn't be selling." Maybe just my bubble hasn't burst and it hasn't just creeped in. But I've been wanting someone to say to me something like, "Oh, how would you feel if someone was celebrating the fact that you died?" I was like, "Well, if I end up killing as many people as Kissinger did, go right ahead."
Yeah. How many Cambodians did I kill in this scenario?
Yeah. Yeah. How many Cambodians have I killed on a whim? Yeah. So, yeah, you know what? Enjoy it. It elevated my mood on Thursday. I noticed
legit.
in the second half of my day, I was like quite energized and like, let's go to the gym. Like, I'm feeling good. Like, let's do this.
I earned it. The endorphins are flowing. Let's fucking go.
Yeah, I was happier. It actually brought me joy knowing he was dead.
Vodka John says, LMAO, if I was a huge piece of shit, please piss on my grave. I'll allow it. Thank you, Vodka John.
Yeah.
Speaking of POSs, the powerful Home Affairs boss, Mike Pezzullo, has been sacked this week after an investigation into backchannel lobbying. So this is a story that we talked about a couple of weeks ago on the show where, Mike Pezzullo was head of the Home Affairs Department. And again, speaking of people who accrued a bunch of power to them in government in ways that were not always necessarily transparent. So you had, at the time, you had Peter Dutton as head of the Home Affairs Department, which was a conglomerate sort of super ministry of all these other ministries that have been gotten together. And that, I think, was thought at the time to be some sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Consolation prize for Peter Dutton not challenging Malcolm Turnbull for the leadership, right? So, hey, Peter Dutton, you won't be Prime Minister, but we'll make you monstrously powerful, and hopefully this will in no way blow back on me, Malcolm Turnbull. And obviously that a strategic mind, obviously, Malcolm Turnbull, because that worked out great for him. But
fantastic.
Mike Pezzullo was the secretary that was sort of in charge of the day-to-day administration of that department. And so there's been an investigation into him, and it's said that Mr. Pezzullo had broken the Public Service Code of Conduct at least 14 times. Breaches included using his duty, power, status, or authority to seek to gain a benefit or advantage for himself, engaged in gossip and disrespectful critique of ministers and public servants, failed to maintain confidentiality of sensitive government information, failed to act apolitically in his employment, yes, failed to disclose a conflict of interest. So he was, backgrounding between various LNP ministers as to who should get the top job and trying to pull strings in the background. And very clearly, if these are the clauses that we're mentioning, he did not meet the standards of behavior in those clauses, so he has been sacked from his $900,000 a year job.
There's one thing of disrespectful critique, and just the language that they use in here. Gossip. You engaged in gossip is such a little I don't know. It doesn't feel very what's the code of conduct-y to use the word gossip.
Gossip. Yes, Queen, slay.
It seems more informal.
What's the tea? Spill the tea, Mikey.
You gossiped about a minister. It's we all do it. If that's the charge, we're all guilty. But yeah, so there we go. What is this? The consequences of my actions?
No, unheard of.
Unheard of.
He was getting paid. He was on full pay while he was stood down from his role. So I always find that funny where they're like, hey, you're suspended with pay. Have a good time. Take it easy. Spend some time with your kids.
Yeah, it's it's kind of how dare you? You're on holiday.
You're on leave. Unlimited, free annual leave.
Yeah. Yeah, you get paid in shame.
He again, shan't be missed. Vodka John says, what about the Congress member in the States that was sacked this week as well? I think he's referring to Mr. George Santos there. Yeah. So for those who don't know, George Santos, inventor of the Brita filter, as well as
father of Henry Kissinger.
Oh, right, there you go. I didn't know that. That's an interesting connection. As well as inventor of pollen, has been kicked out this week from his role in Congress, which marks, I think, the first time that's happened prior to a member of Congress actually being convicted of something. So there was an ethics investigation, and I guess that's what made people feel comfortable enough to pull the pin. They're like, bro, you're spending money on OnlyFans from your political campaign. Like, I don't think we need this one to go to trial. I think we can safely say that you could get kicked out.
Yeah.
So yeah, George Santos gone, but not forgotten. R.I.P.
No. Yeah, gone but not forgotten. What a ride that was.
There's something like
his mother died in 9/11.
He did, yeah, and she didn't die until 2016. It's like, yeah, the thing that one of the things that's so galling about the Lies of George Santos, which Lies of George Santos absolutely needs to be a limited series on Hulu, like, like one of those like American crime story ones, the O.J. Simpson trial, the death of Gianni Versace, the Lies of George Santos. So the thing that's most galling about all of his lies is that they're just so, like, obviously provably false. Like, just the amount of confidence that it takes. Yeah, Vodka John says, the man was so bold, I wish I could have 1/10 of Santos's confidence. I would be very careful with that. Be careful what you wish for, John, because even 1/10 of George Santos's confidence can be deleterious to one's health. Like, even that amount could be poisonous to your system.
Yeah, it is potentially 4 times the recommended daily dose.
Yes, definitely. So, but just like obviously provably false lies. Like, he donated money to his campaign. He said, I'm a successful businessman. I've donated 80 grand to my campaign. Turns out it was like 3.5 grand. And then he basically turned around to people and said, look how much money I donated to my campaign. I don't need your money. Donate to my campaign. And everyone's like, oh, he's got so much money, I'm going to donate to his campaign. And then he basically just I know, the circular logic there is just incredible.
Yeah, the circular logic there is amazing. Like, that's almost equally as much everyone else's fault as it is his. And kind of that you didn't see the flaw there.
And he took that money and then, like I said, spend it on OnlyFans, spend it on luxury goods, spend it on just absolute nonsense. And it's like, mate, this is all provably like very extremely trackable, very traceable lies. Like, there is a death certificate for your mum that is easily look upable. Like, what are you doing? Clearly it's pathological, right? Like, it has to be.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe he's just bored.
Maybe just incredibly bored.
Yeah, just has to start some drama.
So Mike Pezzullo's gone. George Santos is gone. Someone who's still around, Bruce Lehrmann. So for those who don't know, so for our American listeners, Bruce Lehrmann was a conservative political staffer who was accused in, was it 2021?
2021 was when the accusation
emerged. So he was accused of raping a colleague, Brittany Higgins, at their workplace in Parliament in 2019. And the reaction to this kicked off the Women's March and, formed a sort of broader social, movement in, sort of Australia's, I don't want to say like Me Too movement, but like definitely raised a lot of awareness about sexual assault. And there was that whole thing where there was like all those women in Parliament and the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, like refused to come out and sort of meet with them and speak to them. He was like hiding in his office somewhere doing very busy, very, very busy, important things. I'm definitely not booking my next trip to Hawaii. I'm definitely doing something important. Anyway, so it's emerged that so Bruce Lehrmann is currently, so he went to criminal trial. The criminal trial was not successful. There was juror misconduct, so the case was dismissed, and they refused to retry him due to concerns about Brittany Higgins' mental health. And now Bruce Lehrmann is currently in the midst of a defamation trial. So there was a previous defamation action he took against the ABC. Which they settled, so presumably they paid him some amount of money. And now the trial against Channel 10 and journalist Lisa Wilkinson is now ongoing. So and it's not going well for Bruce.
Yeah. He clearly went to the Ben Robert Smith School of defamation trials. Now Bruce, when you're up there on the stand and you're making your case that you were defamed, you need to just make yourself look like even more of a piece of shit than people already think you are. Like, that's key to this succeeding. You need to look so fucked and make people hate you even more.
What the public want is an extremely unlikable figure. So that's how you win cases. Yeah. And it's so funny because like all of these things emerging, because of course it does. Like whenever you're and this whole thing has become a sort of stand-in. The civil trial has become sort of a stand-in for the criminal trial that everyone was waiting for and sort of expecting to come out on the, when the criminal trial was happening. Obviously that information wasn't forthcoming. And the thing about this trial is because it's a civil case, both parties are testifying. Brittany Higgins is testifying.
Yeah.
Bruce Lehrmann is testifying. And turns out when you have to go under cross-examination, a bunch of things come out about you that you would rather not come out about you, which kind of begs the question, like, why are you Streisand affecting this? Like, why are you bringing this case? Like, what are you hoping to achieve?
Right. What are you hoping to achieve from this? And also, like, oh, great, so they didn't retry him for Brittany Higgins' mental health, but she still had to get up on the stand and re-traumatize herself anyway.
That's not up to the prosecutors, though. That's up to Bruce Lehrmann's team.
Right? So, like, great. Fucking great. On ya, piece of shit.
The former Liberal staffer is suing Lisa Wilkinson and Network 10 over an interview on the project in 2011, in which Miss Higgins alleged she had been raped in Parliament House in 2019. So during that interview, she did not name Bruce Lehrmann, which is interesting. But he said people inferred that it was him based on context cues, and he was losing Facebook friends and things like that. And that's how he knew that, people knew that it was him, sort of thing, that had been alleged, right? Part of the information that's come out in the court this week is that Bruce Lehrmann mentioned that he believes he received a threatening email from David Shiraz, Brittany Higgins' partner, titled "Coming for You." Quote, "I want you to have a think about what you did and what might be around the corner for you," it read. "How many people know what you did and how many did you tell? How many cameras are there in Parliament House and how many people tracked down the vision?" During re-examination by his barrister, Stephen Wybrow, this afternoon, Mr. Lehrmann was asked whether, in hindsight, he had formed a view about the source of the email. Mr. Lehrmann, could you wildly speculate as to who sent you that email, that anonymous email? Yes, I can, Kent. Quote, "I have a few that it was Miss Higgins' fiancé, David Shiraz," he said.
Which I don't know. I couldn't find out of this, like, based on what? And I feel from the reporting, like, I don't know if that question was asked in the courtroom or not, but the reporting doesn't kind of go much further. Like, in this particular ABC article, for example, they just sort of talk about who David Shiraz is and that he was present, like, escorting Brittany Higgins to the courtroom, and that was sort of it. Not a why have you come to that conclusion? Like,
based on
what kind of evidence was there? Was it sent from his email? Was it like what? Like, what possibly leads you to think this, to make this speculation? And there's just been nothing of that. So I'm like, huh? Like, are you just taking advantage of? I don't think he can defame people while he's testifying. So, like, are you just taking advantage of that you can say this without any kind of repercussion? I don't know. I just found that so strange. But so many details have been coming out. Well, like, or more, not so much details in that, like, recontextualizing the events of previous or whatever, but more that, like, on numerous times he's said, "Oh, I realize I was wrong about a detail I gave a year ago," or whatever. Like, I did the opposite of that. Or, like, I previously said, "No, I didn't buy her any drinks that night." "Oh, no, I did."
Yeah.
All that sort of stuff.
"Oh, you got it on camera?" Like, "well, I didn't know you got it on camera. If you got it on camera, then I did."
Yeah. And there was some other detail I saw, which was like, you're seen on camera, like, handing her drinks several times throughout the night, but your credit card only had a $16 charge on it. How did you obtain these drinks? And he's like, "Oh, I don't know. Like, I used my credit card." Like, the credit card doesn't have that statement on it. I was like, like, well, that's a detail I didn't know before. I didn't know it. Had you not gone on this massive pissing contest in, like, having a defamation trial?
Yeah, there's so many things where it's like the reason that he said that he was there back at Parliament House, he told the chief of staff that he was there to drink whiskey. He told the security guard that he was something secret documents and had to do something submarines.
Some detail that's fresh in my mind about submarines that I have to write down.
I just got to get it down.
Heaps.
With this obviously intoxicated woman in tow, who turns up naked on the couch several hours later.
It's just a disgusting spectacle that he's made of this.
But it's like no one, like you asked for this, Bruce. Like you're like, I saw a title from The Shovel this week, which is something like Bruce Lehrmann sues Bruce Lehrmann for defamation. It's like, who is this Bruce Lehrmann guy saying all these damaging things about me? It's like you wanted this, buddy.
Yeah. And especially when you're doing defamation against media, because I've said this sort of before, like as soon as you tell journalists that they can't be talking about something, you will get the full force of ruthlessness that journalists can wield at you. You tell a journalist they can't talk about anything, they will put all their effort into trying to talk about the thing.
Yeah,
like there was some.
What was that quote? Bruce Lehrmann. I think there was some joke from Mark Lawyers, which was like Bruce Lehrmann to Ben Robert Smith. Ben
Robert Smith seen holding Bruce Lehrmann's beer or something.
Yeah, like hold my beer, Ben Robert Smith. Here we go again. Like somehow these guys managed to learn absolutely nothing from these defamation trials. Like Christian Porter, Ben Robert Smith. Like it never goes the way that you're thinking it's going to go. Like it might be a good headline at the time to be like, oh, these allegations aren't true, and I'm going to take defamation action. Like, because that makes, that gives a certain impression about you. But like, when the time comes to actually like fight the allegations in court, like all of this shit is on the record. If you tell a lie to the federal police and it comes out in court later, I don't know how that's not perjury. Like, that's a crime, right? Surely.
Yeah. But like, just all these other like little details the journalists dig up. Like, because, in both in reporting
journalists,
on the case.
They'll be the absolute pettiest bitches.
They will be so petty when you come for them.
When you come for them, all of a sudden, the journalism mech comes out of the wall in Channel 10. Prior to that, it's like, Donald Trump, how are you the best president ever? And he's like, well, thank you for the soft question, Paul. But when it comes to, like, criticizing journalists, they're like, like, gear up, boys.
They will come for you. Because I think the clip must have been dug up and shared by The Australian, because I remember being watermarked with like their sort of print across it. But they dug up somehow like footage of what seemed like a celebration following, I think, the criminal trial being dismissed, of Bruce Lehrmann sitting in someone's house with a drink, listening to I Fought the Law. But whenever it gets to "and the law won," they would sing "and Bruce won." And I was like, this clip, I don't know where this came from. It wasn't out there before, but you came for them, and now they've dug it up, and that's out there. Has nothing to do really with the facts of the case, but makes you look like a massive piece of shit, dude.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of things that made Bruce look like a piece of shit, he admitted to seeking cocaine. On the night in question.
Oh, great.
No, not on the night in question, rather. Sorry, on the evening that Brittany Higgins' interview aired, and also lying again to his boss, and again in Seven's Spotlight program. So,
speaking of Channel 7, actually, talking about media companies being petty. Another angle of all this is that, so there was a big, a while ago, the interview with Bruce Lehrmann happened on Channel 7, and sort of the big, this was the big, exclusive sit down with this guy, to which everyone said, ugh, really? But I think there's been, there's always a lot of talk as to whether or not, what was given, was anything given for this interview? Did you pay X? There's been other stories of, X person was paid $20,000 to give this exclusive interview or whatever, and there's discussions around journalistic ethics of, exchanging money or favors for interviews and exclusive content, stuff like that. Anyway, so in just maybe connected to this, I don't know, you tell me. But for at least for a year, Seven Media was paying Bruce Lehrmann's rent on a place in the eastern side of Sydney, in the coastal areas. Lovely complex by the looks of it. I've seen some photos here on a news.com article. But the property that that Bruce Lehrmann, I believe, is currently staying in, which apparently Seven is paying the rent for, is something like $2,500 a month. So,
I mean, that's a good get in Sydney, to be fair.
Or is it $2,500 a week? Sorry, I
2.5K
think
a
maybe
week
it's a week
sounds more
because the maths.
likely.
Sorry, sorry. So the maths that they've brought out here was that if multiplied over a year, it's about 130K.
Yeah, that's a good chunk.
So
they're paying for the apartment, but they haven't paid him. They're just like, here's an empty apartment that someone could live in. Oh, look who's got the keys. Like, how is that?
Well,
what's that arrangement?
I mean, I guess so. Like, I don't like whether or not it's a matter of he's just being paid money and then he is choosing how to use it, or but yeah, okay, yeah, cool. Like,
don't love that.
Why are you doing that? Like, it's one thing for like, oh, to get an interview because you're the first or whatever, but also just like to be like keeping him housed, a media company to be doing it. Like, I know
because it puts a thumb in the eye of exactly
of theirs, like another media company, but like, oh, it's just why
petty,
are you doing
very petty.
this? It's gross, is what it is.
I've been I just would like to read out a text from my lawyer. Mr. Lehrmann denies all charges against him, and there have been no adverse findings against Mr. Bruce Lehrmann. And we here at Unnatural Selection hope that he recovers from that nasty anonymous email. Speaking of defamation trials, Ben Robert Smith, the ghost of Christmas future for Ben Lehrmann, as I would like to call him. So for those who don't know, Ben Robert Smith, again, one of these guys who has decided to take up a defamation action, and a bunch of unholy things came out about him.
Yep, just more evidence was raised, and a
bunch of people under oath
wouldn't have been raised.
Probably would have just forgotten about this guy's name if he'd, just burnt those hard drives in the backyard like he said he did. So he's been ordered to pay $910,000 in 3 tranches as security for costs pending the appeal. So I think ultimately the costs ended up being like $30 million. They've said, give us $910,000 to start. We'll hold that, and then we'll deal with the rest as once the appeal goes through.
The rest of it. Yeah, so I think there's the appeal's been raised, so no one really knows. Like, the court hasn't said this is the amount that then you need to be paying them. But I think one of the journalists who was being sued for defamation by Ben Robert Smith out of this said that it's taken about 5 years to litigate the case and about $30 million.
Yeah, no, I got really expensive lawyers. I mean, very expensive lawyers.
I mean, the punishment, like, the punishment for defamation, like, when I was doing my journalistic training, like, if you lose a defamation case as a journalist, because it's not only sometimes the publication with their backing and whatever,
and their money or their insurance.
The writer.
Yeah.
So, and depending on whether or not like your masthead pops that or not, like, you could personally just be absolutely bankrupted by one of these things. So it's where almost like, when you're suing journalists for defamation, like, they probably haven't published what they've published without going through the really rigorous process of whether their asses are covered. Like, that's not always that they're always right and all that sort of stuff. But they probably haven't published it unless they feel like they've got a case to if they're challenged for defamation.
Vodka John is writing in, if we're talking about things, Coles is getting investigated by the Senate for profiteering. Good.
I saw that this morning. I haven't read too much into it, so I guess I don't have.
We can do something on that next week. But I mean, I know they recorded an annual profit after tax of $1.1 billion. I remember that came out recently. So I mean, both Coles and Woolworths have been mounting sensational profits. The shareholders are very happy. Haven't you done well? I think any major grocery. I mean, all the 4 major banks as well. I remember Commonwealth Bank declared like a $10 billion profit for this financial year and stuff like that. So I think it's clear that there's a lot of these organizations that are, I don't want to say that they're profiteering, but they certainly in lieu of a judgment for cover.
I was gonna say,
but they're making a lot of profit.
You have them. Like, profits, the concept of profits is a real thing, and they seem to be getting a lot of them.
Now, you do the math.
Facts.
Step
there's
1,
2 facts for you.
Raise the price of groceries. Step 2, ? Step 3, profit.
Profit. So I guess we might have more to say on that next week, I guess, as we dig into that a bit more, because I think that's fairly recent, so I'm not really up to speed on a lot of that. I don't know, does that tie in a little bit to the whole YOLO spending concept?
Yes, let's go there.
We kind of brought up in here, if we're going to talk about like profiteering and the economy and all those things. Oh, here we go, NBA chat.
NBA chat
is about.
Here we go.
Ding, ding, ding.
I've always got the bell at close proximity for when we do NBA chat. So, as you might know, Black Friday happened in the last week, which is a big shopping event over in the United States post Thanksgiving, and also now here in Australia as well, I guess.
Well,
so
it's now an international kind of sales event, right? Because online shopping, all that, like a whole bunch of overseas companies are having huge sales, so kind of everyone has to get involved, right?
It's really sort of coincided with Amazon's rise here in Australia. Obviously, they're tied into the whole sort of retail Black Friday stuff overseas. And so doing it here as well as sort of brought it in.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, Australian retail, like, as a sector hasn't been doing particularly well, especially since interest rates have been rising, right? So essentially what they're trying to do by raising interest rates is, 60%, I think, of the Australian economy is consumer spending. So if you take money out of people's wallets by having them spend more money on their mortgages, then they haven't got money to spend on things like retail. So essentially what the RBA is trying to do is stick a knife in the eye of the retail sector.
let's lower inflation by making people poorer.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
That's the plan.
Fair and equitable.
And essentially what this report from the BBC is saying that in the US, at least, despite their similar kind of financial tightening environment over in the States with their increased interest rates, they had a bumper year. Spending is still at record levels, and economists are mystified. So
that's the part of this that I found quite interesting, that economists are sort of baffled. They're like,
economists spend all fucking day baffled. They get on television and they make very confident predictions about how shit is going to go, and then it doesn't go that way, and they go, man, are we baffled? I certainly shouldn't be making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. How is this my job? Anyway.
Yeah, I guess it's the thing of the people aren't just the faceless figures who will be like, well, I have less money, so I'll just settle with curling up in the corner with only a flaming barrel to keep my hands warm because you've increased interest rates. No, some people will be like, hey, to stave off the madness and keep myself from just like jumping off a bridge, I'm gonna buy that iPad. Or like the whole YOLO concept of you only live once. And I think this article talks about people are also spending a lot of money, not necessarily on goods, but experiences. So less like, oh, well, I'll buy the new iPhone because it'll make me happy. Like, it'll give me that endorphin kick that'll just get me through another day. That's totally a thing. But people are also spending a whole lot of cash on experiences because, like, to use a local Australian example of like, no, I'll book that holiday to the Great Barrier Reef because we're going to destroy it soon. So I might as well see it while it still exists.
Get going. Get to see it while it's still there.
Like,
I do think that is a certain
have that apocalyptic mindset of like, oh fuck, I'd better do it now because maybe in the future I won't be able to.
Yeah, so like home savings rates are down somewhat. They are still fairly healthy from what Michelle Bullock was saying the other day, the RBA governor. But yeah, I do think there is a certain amount of doomerism that feeds into that of like, well, who knows what the future's going to hold. It also indicates to me a certain level of people baking inflation in to their future predictions now, which is like a dangerous place to be which means they'll bring forward their spending. I may as well spend it now because if I know prices are going up, it's only going to cost more in future. So if I buy it now, I'll pay less for it than if I buy it in the future, right? And so that helps to do what? To fuel inflation.
And the decision there's never the option 3, which is don't buy the thing.
Don't buy the thing.
Like,
as we all know, with the consumerist mindset, there's only buy now or buy extremely now. Those are the 2 options. Vodka John is writing in, economists think in terms of money, which is rational, when in reality is that money is spent by people, which are irrational. That's a really good point. So if anyone reads the author Dan Ariely, he talks about this, that economists think in terms of homo economicus, perfect economic automatons that go around going, well, if this soap is 10 cents less over here than it is over there, or I'm going to buy it here, like, of course I will. And it's like, yeah, human decision-making is so much more complex and layered than that. Like, it's...
Like, have you also considered how far apart are those 2 shops? Like, what other things does that consumer have going on in their life? Like, are they time poor as well as financially? And
so that's where the whole birthplace of this movement called behavioral economics has come about, sort of combining elements of psychology and economics, which I would think should just be called economics. It's like...
No, that sounds more like what a vibe manager should be.
Vibe manager, central vibe manager.
That is thinking about vibes. What are the vibes that people are capitalizing on?
I think, chief vibe manager at Macquarie Bank might not go down so well as opposed to chief economist. But
true.
Sorry, go on.
Go. Oh, well, I was. We do that all the time. No, I was just more thinking that. Especially when people are looking at economic details like this, for example, like saying like, oh, like we've been raising interest rates, but people are still spending heaps in things like Black Friday. It's like, yeah, well, because the people who are spending in Black Friday still aren't the people we should be like most caring about in this cost of living crisis. It'd be the people who are struggling to afford milk and things like that. Like, yeah, some people are still buying big screen TVs. It's because they're probably still in a position to be able to afford that compared to people who are really struggling.
Yes, maybe, but also necessity. There's like, I think part of the bargain culture is, and I think maybe this is why it's so big in the US, the Black Friday sales, is that a lot of people don't have the spending power to just like buy a television at full price during the year. So they wait for the Black Friday sales.
Oh yeah, that too.
They're so like, this is the only time of the year that I can really sort of afford to buy a television. It's when it's steeply discounted. And so they'll defer that spending to these particular times in order to try and pick up, like, I still want a television. I still got some money, but I'm not going to buy a full price television during the year. I'll wait for the Black Friday sales.
Yeah.
It could be that as well. But I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, truthfully, what they need to be looking at is boomers. Legitimately, because there was a report that came out from the ABC. Alan Kohler did something on this recently where he was talking about how different aged cohorts were spending differently. So millennials and Gen Xers were spending less than a year ago, and by a percentage, a small sort of single digit percentage. But boomers and the greatest generation, if there's any of them still around, are spending substantially more than they were spending last year. So like, and that's got to do with the availability of credit, where you are financially in your life, how much money you're making. Like millennials as a generation, as a rule, are not really contributing to this inflation crisis because we just don't have the money to spend. Like we've hit our limits in terms of how much we can spend. So we're pulling back. The boomers are ordering cruises and, going for holidays and, spending like the life is ending, spending like the world is ending because it is, but like
kind of is. Sorry, you meant buying cruises as in like going on like cruise ships to
not vodka
places.
cruises, if that's what you're thinking.
Not the alco pop beverage.
No, I mean they might be, who knows? But as
buy
that's
it
not
on
what
a
I was
cruise.
Yeah, go get a cruiser on a cruise. So yeah, so it's interesting. So we'll link this report in the show notes as we always do. But yeah, this YOLO spending, people don't know exactly what it's down to. It's just like, fuck it, you only live once, and maybe my last check will bounce, but I'm getting that flat screen. Like, who knows?
So yeah, this comment on the chat might be like the sync might be just a little out, but Vodka John asking if cruises means something else in Australia. Well, yeah, there's a beverage called a cruiser, like one who is cruising.
A vodka cruiser.
Cruiser is a beverage. So Vodka John, I'm surprised you didn't know that. But
yeah, Vodka John, I really feel as though
overseas.
I feel as though this should be in your wheelhouse. So essentially they're a bunch of lolly flavored vodka drinks that alcohol
didn't
companies
realize maybe that was more
targeted
an Australian
teenagers.
thing. Vodka Cruiser, not something overseas. Okay.
I do
learned
remember a
something today.
uniquely Australian moral panic about it. It's kind of like Four Loko, right? That's the American, thing where it's like it's an alco pop. It's like it's very sweet. It's geared to kids. I don't think they're energy drinks like Four Loko.
I want to say White Claw.
White Claw. I think that's a thing.
That rings a bell to me. I just don't know what they are. They just say it on the television in a lot of the American programming that I watch.
That's what we know. Basic white girls drink over in the US. That's the reference that we have.
Right.
So, but there was a whole thing when we were growing up of vodka cruises, and they're targeting teenage girls, kind of, these alco pops going out to parties and people are getting drunk, and it's a serious, it's a menace to society.
It essentially again happened recently with the hard solo.
Yes.
The lemon squash soft drink solo, doing an alcoholic version that they originally called hard solo, and everyone was a bit like, oh, they'll get mixed up, even though they're sold in separate places.
Different
in the shop
stores.
Where you still have to be 18 for them to be sold to. Yeah. I think the only concern of properly mixing them up would be when they're both in the same esky at the family barbecue or something like that. Okay. But
same could be said for any other alcoholic drink that looks like it could be a soft drink.
Right. I don't recall Bundy and Coke ever, or Jim Beam and Coke or whatever having this issue. But I guess they looked really different rather than the big Solo logo. But they changed the name of Hard Solo to Hard Rated. That is a beverage you can purchase. Yeah, I know. That was my face as well. I was like, that wasn't the solution to this problem. I think,
Australian society, once every 10 to 15 years, just has space emotionally for a moral panic. And for it to be so consistently about so Vodka John is saying with flavored nicotine vape pens being targeted to children. I see that.
Now, there's a moral panic.
That's a moral panic I can get behind.
Yeah, maybe we should. Yeah, maybe we should make some emotional availability for that moral panic. Not
that seems fine. Vape pens seem bad. I'm fine with us limiting that to adults, but I don't know. It's just I kind of feel like the vodka cruiser thing. It's yes. Kids shouldn't be drinking alcohol, but kids already aren't allowed to drink alcohol anyway.
And it's also a weird idea because it also kind of makes people tell on themselves that they're like, no, alcohol should taste bad.
Terrible.
Yeah, vodka cruises aren't my thing, but it's it's a sweet drink. It's like a soft drink, but it has the alcoholic aspect to it. So yes, there's the thing of you might not know that you're drinking alcohol, and
I guess it's more that it's targeting kids.
It has to. Yeah. So it's but that's a thing of regardless of whether or not it tastes nice and sweet or is bitter as hell, kids shouldn't be drinking them anyway.
Yes,
so
exactly.
That's not the issue. I don't know. Wow. Well, yeah, that changed.
We got off the topic.
I guess a cruiser's pun led us down that path.
This is what happens when you have a live audience. Vodka John says, kids shouldn't play with matches, cigs, booze, or watch lewd TV. They will find a way, though. Yes, well, yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, there's also that too, right? Once it's in people's homes, it's really kind of hard to deal with anything, right? It's the same with R-rated movies and R-rated video games. I ranted about this a lot for 10 damn years.
Hey, man, I owe a significant portion of my development to R-rated movies that I watched far too young. Okay, so...
And look how he turned out.
Look how it turned out, ladies and gentlemen. Absolute perfection. Okay, so speaking of humans who are the absolute model of psychological perfection, Elon Musk.
Good.
So Elon Musk had an interview with the New York Times this week where he made the PR person at Twitter/X shit themselves yet again by telling potential advertisers that were fleeing the company in response to some anti-Semitic remarks that he made on Twitter to go fuck themselves. And I think at that point, if you're the PR person at Twitter, you just quit. You just take a SpaceX rocket and shoot yourself into the sun. I don't know what you do at that point, but let's hear Elon Musk. We'll play the clip and we'll see what you think. There we go.
And obviously, you know that there's a public perception that, and you're clarifying this now, but there's a public perception that was part of a apology tour, if you will. that this had been said online. There was all of the criticism. There was advertisers leaving. We talked to Bob Iger today.
So just to give a bit of context of that. So someone posted a conspiracy theory about Jews that referenced the Great Replacement theory, and Elon Musk tweeted in response, "You have said the actual truth." And then everyone started freaking out. And so he went on a little publicity tour to Israel. He himself went to Israel like a visiting dignitary, like he's fucking Joe Biden or something. And they showed him around Israel to be like, look, shit's really fucked up here. And he's looking around going, oh, it is fucked up. I'm really sorry about the things I said about the Jews. Anyway, so this is him responding to that.
Stop.
You hope
Don't advertise.
you don't want them to advertise?
No.
What do you mean?
If somebody's going to try to blackmail me with advertising, blackmail me with money, go yourself.
But
Go yourself. Is that clear? I hope it is. Hey, Bob, if you're in the audience.
well, let me ask you then.
That's how I feel. Don't advertise.
How do you think then about the economics of X? If part of the underlying model, at least today, and maybe it needs to shift, maybe the answer is it needs to shift away from advertising. If you believe that this is the one part of your business where you will be beholden to those who have this view, what do you do?
F-Y.
I understand that, but there's a reality too, right?
Yes. No.
I mean, Linda
no,
Yaccarino's right here, and she's got to sell advertising.
Absolutely. So, totally. No. Actually, what this advertising boycott is going to do, it's going to kill the company.
And do you think that
and the whole world will know that those advertisers killed the company, and we will document it in great detail.
But those advertisers, I imagine, are going to say, we didn't kill the company.
Oh yeah.
They're going to say,
tell it to Earth.
But they're going to say, Elon, that you killed the company because you said these things, and that they were inappropriate things, and that they didn't feel comfortable on the platform, right? That's what they're going to say.
And let's see how Earth responds to that.
Let's see how Earth responds to that. There's so many things.
Did he just say, you know the thing about this boycott? It's going to work. Did I say that? He was just like, I'll tell you something about this boycott. People like refusing to advertise on my platform. It's going to destroy me. Please don't do that. Or go ahead, destroy me. What?
It's so fun. And the way he's like, go fuck yourself. And then kind of like turns to the audience like he's playing for a laugh line or something. In the audience, there's just like one guy in the corner who's going, what are you doing, Elon? What are you talking about, you crazy person?
Most people were a bit too shocked. And one guy was like, oh shit, here we go.
Yeah.
And the interviewer, the guy from the New York Times, that pause was, it's a thing of journalists.
You know what it's like?
Hearing people maybe say a cooked thing, but he just did the thing where he's just like, I actually need to recalibrate a little bit before that was so out of left field for me. Like I was not expecting you to do something like that. I need to collect myself a minute, which just gives Elon more time to be like, oh no, silence, not good. Got to fill the silence. Go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. I'm just going to keep saying it.
He's so used to being in a room of total sycophants who just like agree with him and laugh at his dumb fucking jokes and say, just agree with everything that he says, that he's like, it's like when a king or something like makes a joke and it's like, right, court jesters, and everyone goes, ha 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 ha, you're so funny, King Elon. Oh, with your beneficence, we adore your humor, Kingathan Elon. It's just a man whose brain has been absolutely polluted by the platform that he now owns. It's unreal. The whole idea that it's like your company, the existence of your company that you paid $44 billion for, the whole model is predicated on advertising. So you can't tell, that's not smart. I don't know how to, and the journalist is just sitting there like, It's like when a kid is like screaming at a party and you need to like talk to them and be like, bro, you can't do that. Like, I don't know how to explain to you explain like I'm 5 terms that this is not okay behavior. Your business model is predicated on advertising. And if all of these advertisers leave and you tell them to go fuck themselves, your company will collapse. And he goes, yep, it will.
Correct.
And we'll document it. I guess, so you're going to sue Disney for not advertising with your anti-Semitic company? Like, what's that lawsuit? What's that going to, you're not going to get $44 billion back. What are you doing?
Yeah. And I don't know. And just he was even given the opening by the journalist there to be like, well, maybe the model has to change. Then potentially,
I'm trying to think for you as to what your possible explanation could be. Maybe you're moving to a subscription model, I guess.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like the follow up to that would be, so if you're thinking this is a different way to run Twitter, that not on advertisers, on users actually having to pay for it, which you see how the response to that was.
Yeah, good luck with that, buddy.
That initially happened. It's so funny that also is the other part of that of like, he says, yes, it'll work. It'll destroy Twitter. And let's see how Earth feels about that. I'm like, bro, when you first talked about maybe costing $8 a month or whatever to actually do anything on Twitter, and everyone was like, God, I can't wait for this site to burn. Like, everyone was like, I can't wait for the hell site to disappear.
Yeah.
As soon as I have to pay money to be here, I'm gone. I can't wait for this to have disappeared. That's how Earth's going to respond.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Earth's not going to be like, oh no, just wailing and lamentations over the end of Twitter. Like, bro, we're not all as addicted to this thing as you clearly are. Like,
yeah, like as soon as it does not serve us to be on it, and it barely does in this point, we just like to be on there because we hate ourselves. But as soon as it doesn't even do that for us, people will disappear. I don't think like Earth is not going to like lament your failure. Like, they aren't going to, like, be like, oh, what a great loss. Elon's meme factory.
Earth was here for 13.4 billion years before you arrived. It'll be here for many years after X has left this Earth. I don't think anyone's going to be greatly disappointed. But, like, people talk about it like, oh, good, Twitter is dying. So now I don't have to, like, I could just put that away. You know what I mean? Like, people are relieved that it's going away.
Not to tie it back to the spending thing before, but like just us not using Twitter isn't an option. Either we use it or it disappears. There's no third option where Twitter exists, but we just decide not to use it. Because we're terrible internet monkeys.
It just goes to show that sometimes a billionaire is just a guy with $1 billion. Like, being a billionaire doesn't make you smart or insightful. All it means is that you have at least $1 billion and $1 dues. That's all it means.
Yep. That's astounding.
Polyverse is saying he is the perfect example of a boomer who found 4chan. Yeah, he's absolutely a guy. Like, I was sus on him right from, you remember when was it in Thailand? Those boys who were trapped in the underground cave?
Yeah, trapped the soccer team in the cave.
Yes. And then he called one of the divers,
one of the rescuers, a pedo guy.
A pedo with no evidence. I was just like, oh, this guy's gone like full 4chan fucking internet brain. Like, his brain is just polluted at this point. For you to be a public figure and to know that the stocks of multiple companies are resting on the things you say and do, and with no evidence to be like, I reckon this guy's a fucking pedophile. What are you doing? Linda Yaccarino probably wants to launch herself into the fucking sun. She's sitting there watching this going, just think of the stock options, Linda. Just think of the bonus.
Is she the new CEO?
Yeah.
Sorry? Right. Yeah. Sorry, I say new. Been the CEO for a while.
Yeah, it's just like she's just got to be sitting there thinking like, my shares are going to vest at 24 months, and then I am so gone after that. They'll be worth nothing at that point. But
yeah. So I don't know. And that, like, even further, like one thing saying like, oi, advertisers who are trying to blackmail me with money. Like, he was saying that, like, you're going to use money to influence my decisions. It's like, that people do that all the time. What? That's not a novel concept.
But it's not blackmail. You blackmail people for money. You don't blackmail people with money. Like, yeah. But the whole idea of blackmail is like, it's not blackmail if Disney doesn't like, if Disney and these other corporations don't like the things that the obviously incendiary, very offensive things that you are saying about Jews on your platform, if they don't like it and they choose not to spend money at your platform, that's not blackmail. That's just a free market decision. Okay.
Yes.
Free market bros, the invisible hand of the market,
And
you know, like that's
sorry, which one of you guys in the chat was it who said it before, but describing Elon as, oh, look, it's the polyverse, the fearless leader of free speech.
Yes.
Elon, like that's one of maybe the best examples of someone exercising their free speech I can think of.
Yeah.
They don't like what you have to say, so they don't want to spend money on your platform.
Yeah.
Your platform can continue to exist. They're not going to throw you in jail for the terrible things that you say. They're just not going to support it. That's free speech.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So, Elon, you should really be, like, proud. Like, he name-checked the Disney CEO on the stage there. Like, when he said,
Bob Iger.
if you're listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's who he was referring to.
I just don't understand.
Colossal moron.
And also, why is he dressed like, you know, a DJ doing a set in Ibiza? Like, why is that the CEO of 3 companies up there dressed like that? Like, what is going on? What is happening?
I didn't get DJ. Hang on, I need to.
He's wearing some like leather jacket with a furry collar and some metal tag and.
Oh, I was getting like
this is not like CEO attire for an important New York Times interview. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, I guess, but that's
the
tech
least,
bro.
That's
Tech Bro 101, right? Like, no, we wear t-shirts and jeans and we're cool. I'm so sad that Adam's not on the show this week because I just love whenever Elon fucks up something like this so monumentally. I just want to go like, still defending him? What's up, Adam? Where are my Elon stands now? How can you defend this? I thought Adam always comes at it being like, I love space shit. So
I
seeing
love
some of the shit
spaceships.
SpaceX does, which, you know what, I'm with him on that. I love space shit. So when I see that space stuff's happening that's cool, I'm really into it. I'm not into the fact that SpaceX puts up so many satellites that we won't be able to actually study space sometimes because of the sheer amount of clutter in the way that we won't learn more about the cosmos. That's shit. But yeah, space stuff interests me. But what's funny is probably it has very little to do with him. Maybe he started the company, he funded some things, maybe did some of the engineering, but it's mainly a whole bunch of other people who do all that sort of shit. So yeah, same with Tesla and stuff, right? Like, you know,
I remember
he jumped on later on, but it's other people's work who came up with maybe some of the more innovative ideas. It's probably more his decisions that made the factories so dangerous. And all these other stupid shit,
I mean, this
right?
is a whole other aside, but I think the Dollar podcast did a great couple of episodes on Elon Musk recently where they talked about
600 episode special. Yeah.
A couple of things about how he was like, yeah, the companies that he's been a part of have succeeded sort of despite him rather than as a result of him.
In spite of Elon.
He's basically just sort of a slave driver that whips people, makes them work 18 hours a day, sleep on the factory floor, that sort of thing. Like, I don't think he's contributing any kind of intellectual acumen to the process. It's just like just working people harder sort of thing. And like, and even to the extent where when he was working at PayPal, he was like writing lines of code that other coders were then having to go and like, fix up and like, you know, sort of redo, and then he would go back in the middle of the night and like re-fuck it up. and then PayPal fired him. There was like, he was on a honeymoon to Australia and they're like, great, he's gone. While he's on the plane, let's get the board votes, get rid of him. And then put Peter Thiel in charge because they were like, yeah, he's ruining this fucking company. And yet they sold that. He made $180 million. That's like, sure, why not?
Yeah.
Just keep failing.
Sometimes a billionaire
upwards.
is just a guy with $1 billion who keeps failing upwards.
Yeah, he just is on a rocket ship failing upwards at 1,000 miles an hour.
Oh, fucking hell.
All right. I think that does me.
Just insane.
On that note, we have been, we are, and we always will be Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com. Make sure you visit us on that social media network in question that we have just been shit talking for the last half hour. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Motherflip and TikTok at our handle, Unnatural Show. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, whatever the fuck is next, at George Tsipos.
You can follow me on Twitter at Tom D. Heath.
And you can follow us all down to Elon's place where you'll tell us all to go fuck ourselves. Thank you to the lovely people listening and watching live. We appreciate you and your comments throughout the show. It really livens things up. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week.